There's a recent article by Business Insider titled The Red Flags That Will Tell Us When China's Actually Ready to Invade Taiwan. It's all about the possible signs that would indicate Xi Jinping is ready for the final showdown. These include things like China beefing up its navy, stocking up on food and fuel, and running military exercises near Taiwan nonstop. Today, we're going to look into when and how the Chinese Communist Party might pull the trigger. One of the warning signs isn't anywhere near Taiwan. It's all the way in Xinjiang, on China's far western border. Back in the days of Chairman Mao, Xinjiang was considered a backwater region. It was dry, sparsely populated, and its long border with the Soviet Union, an enemy of China at the time, made it a prime danger zone if the Russians invaded. But now the CCP and Xi Jinping see Xinjiang differently. From 2024 to 2026, companies owned by the Chinese central government are slated to pour the equivalent of $100 billion into developing Xinjiang. This modern-day industrial revolution is aimed at moving factories inland for strategic security in case of a major war. It's similar to what the Soviets did in the 1950s when they shifted much of Russia's industrial base to Siberia, east of the Ural Mountains. From April 22nd to 24th, Xi Jinping visited the city of Chongqing, southwestern China. There, he chaired a seminar and emphasized the Western Development Initiative. This time, he skipped tours of the CCP's revolutionary historical sites and ideological education bases, focusing instead on logistics centers, cutting-edge tech industries, and digital urban governance centers. In Hunan, Xi inspected agricultural areas known as China's breadbasket due to their strategic importance in food production. Xi's itinerary, including the Western Development and the Xinjiang Development Initiatives, signifies a shift in economic and industrial focus from the Chinese coast to its inland areas, as well as a transition towards wartime conditions. Xi also introduced the big view on food supply concept, stressing the importance of a balanced diet beyond just grains, including fruits, vegetables, fish, mushrooms, and bamboo shoots. This direct guidance to the populace on dietary habits can be seen as preparations for enduring hardship in times of war or natural calamity. All these efforts can be seen as part of Xi Jinping's strategic mobilization and preparations for potential future conflicts. In terms of naval development, there has been a significant surge in the first few months of this year, which is why the magazine Business Insider referenced, citing a crucial source from U.S. naval intelligence analysis. As reported in the Business Insider article, the Chinese Navy has seen a significant surge in strength since the start of 2024. The third aircraft carrier of the Chinese People Liberation Army Navy, the Fujian, is reported about to commence sea trials, while another amphibious assault ship has also been commissioned. The Fujian has a displacement of around 80,000 tons, where the amphibious assault ship has a displacement of 40,000 tons. The amphibious assault ship could also be considered a light aircraft carrier, capable of carrying dozens of helicopters and over 1,000 assault troops for helicopter-borne assault operations, making it a formidable weapon in terms of offensive capability. According to assessments by people watching the development of China's military, the total tonnage of PLA Navy vessels commissioned in 2024 to date has exceeded 200,000 tons. This includes submarines, destroyers, and other ships. A typical naval vessel displaces several thousand tons, and when compared with other navies, China's growth is massive. In all of 2022, the Indian Navy increased its fleet by just 50,000 tons. The entire British Royal Navy displaces just 500,000 tons. China, adding hundreds of thousands of tons to its fleet in less than half a year, suggests preparation for conflict. So when will the showdown happen? The opinion cited in the Business Insider article still suggests that it could occur within a few years, with the basic consensus being around 2027. Various opinions in the Business Insider article think China would be ready to start a war over Taiwan in several years, with a rough consensus being the year 2027. That means potentially just another 3 years before the fate of Taiwan and China are decided. Some experts believe that the conditions for Communist China to invade Taiwan are already in place. In terms of firepower, the Chinese military already has a huge arsenal of long-range missiles and drones. A significant number of PLA aircraft and warships are constantly on maneuver around Taiwan. They have long been familiar with the sea conditions, geography, and weather around and on the island. With a single order, a training exercise could easily turn into a real military operation. For the PLA, the biggest obstacle is that the Chinese currently lack enough amphibious transport vessels to carry enough troops for a successful landing on Taiwan. But there are alternatives to this, such as using civilian cargo ships. One type of cargo vessel, known as roll-on, roll-off ship, has retractable stern ramps, bow ramps, and side doors, similar to military landing craft. Vehicles can drive off and onto these ro-ro ships, making them ideal for transporting both personnel and equipment. At the same time, civilian ro-ro ships have drawbacks such as a higher center of gravity, making them less stable in rough seas and unsuitable for voyages across long distances of open water. Unlike large container ships that are loaded and unloaded using port cranes, ro-ro ships are commonly used for short-distance transport in straits, narrow bays, and inland seas, effectively serving as ferries. They differ from military landing craft in that civilian ro-ro ships cannot directly beach themselves and deploy troops on shorelines. Instead, they will probably need to be accompanied by smaller vessels like amphibious assault boats for troops to transfer to shore. Nevertheless, civilian ro-ro ships can save valuable time for Chinese military by transporting large numbers of combat personnel and vehicles to locations off the Taiwan coast, making them valuable to auxiliary ships. Ro-ro ships built recently have increasingly featured dual military and civilian purposes in their design. Then there's the question of how the CCP will finally make its move, whether it'll involve a period of blockade before launching an attack, or if it'll just go straight for an all-out invasion of Taiwan. If the CCP feels that its military is not strong enough to quickly overwhelm the Taiwanese forces and seize the island, it may see no choice but to first blockade Taiwan before launching a direct invasion. By bombing Taiwan, the CCP would also hope to crush the morale of its citizens. Lyle Goldstein, the Director of Asia Engagement and Defensive Priorities, is one of the experts who believes that China is already able to take Taiwan now if it wanted to. More preparations would be simply to reduce the risks faced by the Chinese military in its operation. Instead of making slow moves that would alert Taiwan, America, and their allies to a CCP operation in advance, Goldstein thinks the PLA would likely go for a rapid invasion that decides the fate of Taiwan in just a few hours. If the CCP decided to blockade Taiwan first, it would mean giving the US and Japan a long time to prepare and determine ways to assist Taiwan. On the other hand, a sudden invasion comes with major risks for the CCP. If the CCP launches a large-scale landing battle after only brief airstrikes, Taiwan would still have troops and supplies that it could use to counterattack the PLA landing force. A significant number of Chinese vessels could be destroyed at sea, resulting in substantial personnel losses and the failure of the operation even before the Americans and Japanese step in to rescue Taiwan. It remains to be seen whether this is a gamble Xi Jinping is willing to take. Finally, while there are growing warnings about the CCP's military buildup and shift to a wartime footing, it doesn't mean that war is unavoidable. However, it could happen sooner and faster than expected. If most observers believe the CCP would only be ready to attack Taiwan in 2027, the war might actually happen in 2025, or even right after the 2024 US presidential election. After all, if we follow conventional reasoning, no one would send a costly new ship into battle as cannon fodder. It takes several years for proper training to turn new ships and their crew into effective combat forces. With this mindset, setting the war clock for 2027 or even a year or two later seems reasonable. However, wars rarely follow a set schedule. They're influenced by numerous factors, from the overall geopolitical situation to the psychology of individual leaders, mainly Xi Jinping in this case. The People's Liberation Army has many issues due to its lack of real-world experience in naval and air combat. For example, in 2022, Nancy Pelosi visited Taiwan. The CCP treated it as a real-world test and deployed J-16 fighter jets to locate her aircraft. The J-16 is a modified version of the Soviet Su-30 fighter and possesses electronic warfare capabilities. However, when escorted by U.S. planes using American jamming technology, the J-16's radar displayed only static and failed to locate anything. This non-kinetic confrontation already showed a defeat for the CCP. In terms of electronic warfare capabilities, the U.S. military beats the PLA, as seen in the incident involving Pelosi's Taiwan trip. Depending on how severe the gap between American and Chinese technology is, this advantage could play a significant role in the event of a conflict over Taiwan, even with minimal U.S. intervention.